information I want to correct is that the lady in question was like a daughter to me. She had stayed with me for 3 years. She was a staff of the Federal Medical University. She was a nurse and not a physiotherapist. And the family and my family are like one family. And she has her medical records in Turkish hospital, being paid by us. She spoke to her boyfriend at the hour of her death and complaining that she was bleeding from the nose. And the boyfriend said, no, you have to report. You say it has stopped. So the boyfriend said, listen, I will not continue this conversation since you are bleeding. It will increase the bleeding. And she told the boyfriend, don't cut the call. The boyfriend cut the call. And 3 minutes later, the boyfriend called again. She was not responding. And even in the morning, she told the boyfriend she was going to bath because she locked her door, you know. So even in the morning, when they broke the door and discovered her dead, the tap was still running, you know. So, but what baffles me, you know, in this country is that everything becomes an opportunity. Now, there is a guest house where her and the second medical person stay. And that is very far from where I stay. And so it means that, God forbid, somebody dies in Ministry of Works, the minister must be accountable to that. Is that what they are saying? Is that they are saying that somebody cannot die? Is that, have they checked the medical records of the lady? Do they know, you know, that this lady was like a daughter to me? And that, you know, everything goes into politics. But what I say to people, be careful. Life is spiritual. Where you want to use the unfortunate death of a young girl to play politics, if we have hands in the killings, it will follow us in our family. But if we don't have hands and you are jumping into it, behold, this is David. I'm a man of full grace. You don't, you know, tackle me anyhow and you go out of it. So be careful when you want to use the death of that young lady. You know, one of my best workers, a nurse, a staff of the federal. Somebody said, oh, they were transported. You know, the second girl is from Benue State, you know, and that girl has worked with me as a governor before she was employed. And so when people darken the so while I'm not talking to the president, it means nothing, but very painful to me that that girl passed on. You know, it's very difficult to replace her. You know, and you know, the parents will be begging them, allow for autopsy to happen. They say it's against their culture. But the question is that if she were a Muslim, will you be insisting that autopsy will happen? You know. But we insisted to our lawyer that autopsy should happen. And we are begging the parents to allow autopsy to happen. And I say, no, it's against their culture. And so we have a stalemate, you know. And only God will resolve it, because I have directed that the corpse cannot be removed until they have done autopsy. But it's very strange why an unfortunate thing that happened, you know, is being made this. Is it that we killed a woman that was giving me injection, you know, or that, you know, was administering drug to us, that live in our guest house, even in my residence in Asokoro? So what sort of rubbish is that, you know? So, but people should be careful, because when I kneel down to pray, I say, when you push yourself into this, I say, God, may the death of the girl be better than their own death. That's my prayer for everybody that is using it to play politics. But if we have hands, let it also follow us. Because it can be very annoying when people use, you know, people's, you know, unfortunate incident and are playing politics. Some people are calling me, we are this organization. We want to do protest. We want you to see us. You know, what is it? This is David. You know, I don't fear battle. You know, and I've never lost any. You know, but life is spiritual. We need to be very, very careful. It's very important. So the matter is ongoing. We've reported to IG to transfer the case to Abuja. So that, you know, because I'm from a former governor there, so let them transfer it to Abuja and let them beg the family to do autopsy. I'm begging the family to meet with IG so that maybe IG can convince them. But there are medical records, in Turkish hospital. The last one was on 5th of April, and it cost me 2.2 million. The records are there. I paid 2.2 million, you know. So that is it. So I don't want to go because it's like a daughter that died. So I'm mourning, and I laugh at, you know, so he says a physiotherapist. You know, they presented the girls as if they were wrong girls. You know, these people were inside the plane with me, you know, and my immediate staff. We flew together. It's not as if they even came to Ebonyi differently. We flew together, you know, with them. You know, we're going to Lagos, you know, and this is not the first time. The boyfriend also told us that in Lagos, which was when we went for this coastal road, that she called him and said she was bleeding from the nose. He said, no, report to your boss. He said the boss will insist that she should go back to hospital, that she didn't want, and she don't stress me. So he said, look for hospital around there and go. That's the confession of the boyfriend, you know. And so I've asked the police to